Welcome back to another edition of New York Sports Rehab. And I thought that we would do a quick impromptu podcast on the state of affairs with both the Jets and the Mets. As I sit here on a chilly Monday, late morning here in Brunswick, Georgia, but I love this weather, nice and cool, nice and crisp, not too cold, especially if you're from New York and you're used to colder weather. But anyways, I just thought we would talk quickly about the Jets and how they continue to find new ways every week to just astound you with their ineptitude and poor coaching. And you would think at some point in time there's got to be like a statute of limitations on just how many ways you could come up to be incompetent and do dumbfounding things time and time again. And yet again yesterday the Jets found another way, and they always seem to rear their ugliest head in the fourth quarter. Of course, you've got the continuation of penalties, especially in the second half, and then especially in the fourth quarter. In fact, if there's ever a game where the Jets don't commit penalties in the fourth quarter, that would probably be a story in itself. If the Jets didn't blow a lead in the fourth quarter, that would be a story in itself. But first of all, let me preface this whole thing by saying it really doesn't freaking matter at this point. The Jets went into yesterday's game 4-10. So win or lose, it really doesn't matter. And in a lot of ways, I mean, if you're looking for the higher draft pick, I guess you got what you wanted, though. The Jets have shown that they can screw up a draft pick just about anywhere in the draft. So I wouldn't get my hopes up so high on the quality of the draft pick we're going to get either. But we'll have to assess that further when we know who the general manager and coach are going to be next year. But anyways, once again, the Jets went into the fourth quarter ahead with a lead against the Rams. And at times, especially in the first half early on, the Jets looked pretty good, especially offensively. They had 90. How do you have a 99-yard drive to open the game? And then after that, it's the same old thing. I guess all we can assess that on is that Downing, our play caller now, he does a good job of scripting the first or second possession of the game. And after that, when they've got to start adjusting and ad-libbing more or less, he struggles with that. We saw that a lot with Adam Gase. They'd come out and they'd look like world beaters for the first drive or two, and then the opponent would adjust, and Gase didn't have an answer for it. And it's kind of, I think, to some degree, what we see with Downing now. Better than Hackett, that's for sure. But then again, what does that mean? But I guess to cut to the chase, again, the most astounding thing was at the end of the game, the Jets are down by 10 points, 2 scores, most likely not going to come back anyways. But the fact that they get within scoring range, they get to what appears to be at this point now a very makeable field goal. And you would think that the coaching staff through this whole possession would have already had a plan in place as far as what they're going to do when they get within the situation where they have to make a decision of whether to go for it or kick the field goal. But no, we get to a point now where it's a fourth down. I don't know what it was, fourth or four, fourth or five. We're looking at probably like a 42-yard field goal at that point before the penalty. But Aaron Rodgers is calling for timeout, which should have been the case there. Instead, once again, the Jets got a delay of game penalty because they couldn't decide what to do. Kicked them back 5 more yards. And in the process, the Jets missed the damn field goal anyways. But where is the uncertainty on this play? If you watch NFL games from week to week, when teams are down by multiple scores late in the game, in almost every case, unless you're at a fourth and inches, you're on the goal line just about, it's common practice that you take the points right there and make it a one-score game. And more times than not, that would mean kick the field goal, get within one score, and at that point, either you can onside kick, or in this case, the Jets had all 3 timeouts left. It made too much sense. Kick the field goal, get it to a 7-point game, regular kickoff. There was still well over a minute to go in the game. Use all three timeouts, get the ball back again, and see if you can score again there. Now, again, the odds of the Jets ever doing that anyways were unlikely, but the fact that the Jets were not prepared for it, if at the very least, if at this point you still don't know what to do because you weren't proactive in this whole drive, at least call time out. You got three. So burn one of the timeouts there rather than end up with a 5 yard delay of game penalty, which I mean, that kick was so far off, it probably wouldn't have made it from 10 yard line, but you don't know that, you know, beforehand. So if you're unsure of what to do, if you can't make up your mind whether to go for it or not, even though the answer is very common sense wise in the NFL, call the timeout, save yourself the 5 yard penalty, make it a more makeable field goal, and you have time to discuss the ramifications of each situation. But if you watch NFL football, 99 out of 100 times, teams are going to kick the field goal there, maybe burn a timeout, and then either onside kick or use their remaining timeouts to get the ball back again. Not the Jets. They looked like that they were in this situation for the first time. I think 90% of the rec league coaches would know what to do there. People that have never coached but just watched football would know what to do there. And it's astounding to me. And I know Ulbrich was thrust into this role. It was a surprise. He never expected to be a coach this year. He shouldn't have been a coach this year. But come on, you still are an NFL coach to some standard. And someone on that sideline's got to have enough common sense to know what you do in those situations. Timeout, kick the field goal, or don't call timeout and kick the field goal. Make a decision. Make a decision. And yet the Jets once again could not. Aaron Rodgers was frustrated. He was on the right track there. You could see him signaling with his hands to call a timeout, but no. So in the big scope of things, it never really would have mattered. But just the ineptitude of this coaching staff, and I've said it before, and I know we tend to sometimes always kind of highlight the present when we say this is the best team I've ever seen or this is the worst team I've ever seen. But honestly, in my 50 something years of Jets fandom, this is the worst coaching staff I've ever seen. Yes, Adam Gase was bad, but he didn't have the talent level that this team has. And I don't remember Adam Gase in these situations near as bad. He did some crazy shit too, but nothing like this. You go back to Rich Kotite again, 1-15 team, but no talent there. I don't remember the ineptitude of on-field management, game in and game out, and the undiscipline and the penalties under Gase, under Rich Kotite, under any of the coaches the Jets may have had, especially back in the 70s. They even had Lou Holtz for a part of a season. And as good as he was as a college coach, he was terrible as a pro coach, and he knew that. He got out right away. Good for him. But I've never seen a coaching staff this bad from top to bottom in my entire life. The only good thing about this, whoever they bring in next year, even if it's not a popular candidate, has got to be better than what this coaching staff is. And I don't want to all of a sudden start hearing everybody heaping praise on Robert Saleh. Saleh was bad. He just wasn't this bad. But Saleh was a bad head coach. Okay. And he's strongly to blame for the situation that we're in right now. Good defensive coordinator, and we found out just how good a defensive coordinator he is now that he's not here. Obviously, Ulbrich was a benefactor in a lot of ways to what Saleh was doing. The thing I don't understand is even without Saleh here, wasn't there a system in place already for the last couple of years? Most of these guys on the defense have been around. They've been on this team for a while. Status quo. Why couldn't we just remain status quo after Saleh was fired with the system that was in place? I don't get it. Did players just quit at that time? Maybe. But I don't want to hear how, we made a big mistake by getting rid of Saleh. He was going to get fired. I mean, probably looking back at it, we probably should have just waited to the end of the season at this point. But don't tell me that Saleh was a good coach. He wasn't. He's a good defensive coordinator. He'll get a job quickly. But he's largely to blame for this freaking mess of ineptitude that I can't believe in 2024, after all these losing seasons, 14 years now without making the playoffs, we might be looking at the worst season of the entire bunch. How many rebuilds? McCagnon came in to rebuild. Going back before, you had Idzik was here to rebuild. Tannenbaum, for part of his time after the Jets went to the championship games, was here for a rebuild. Joe Douglas had 6 years to rebuild. And the fact that this guy, if this guy has any animosity towards this organization, and he's the one leaking out all the stories on the Jets, I mean, come on. The guy was given almost 6 freaking years in a job where he was 30 and what, 63, 30 and 64. That's got to be historical in itself. Has any general manager ever been given almost 100 games to turn things around with a record more than double the amount of losses it wins? Come on. So I don't know what's up with him or his camp, but it's just total ineptitude. The Jets have taken it to a new level as far as embarrassment. We're now the final question of Jeopardy the other night. Which NFL team hasn't been back to the Super Bowl since they originally went prior to man walking on the moon? Of course, that's the Jets. And of course, all three contestants got it wrong. When it comes to sports questions, a lot of these contestants don't do very well. They can name you the most obscure answer to whatever, but can't tell you a simple sports question. So it is what it is. Anyways, just total ineptitude we're looking at right now. So again, what the hell were they thinking at the end of the game? Well, they weren't thinking. They didn't have a plan. They weren't proactive. They ended up getting another delay of game penalty. You can bank on a couple of those every game. They missed the field goal anyways. And then, oh, I forgot. Then after the defense holds 3 and out, not that it would have mattered, they punt the ball, and our great punter Xavier Gipson fumbles the punt, and that's the game. I mean, so jet-like. Has any one player ever lived on their reputation so long for one play than Xavier Gipson? That was a great punt return against Buffalo, opening game last year. We were at the game. Tremendous return. Great moment in Jet history. The guy's done shit since then. How is this guy still on the team? How is he getting reps over Malachi Corley? Other questions to be determined. So once again, the Jets found a way to just make you shake your head and say, oh my God, oh my God, who is coaching this team? A monkey? I don't know. Like, you can't, as it said, this season just can't end quick enough. And I've seen some bad seasons. This one, this can't end quick enough. The only good thing is next year has got to be better, right? Right? I hope. So really not much more to say there. I believe the Jets are now, as of now, 8th in the draft. Coming in, big deal. Okay, big deal. If they pick 8, they pick 4. They moved up to get Sam Darnold at number 3 from 6. Traded 3 number 2s. Couldn't do anything with Darnold. He goes to the Vikings, and he's lighting it up now. They had the 2nd overall pick with Wilson, Zach Wilson. How did that one turn out? So, you can have all the picks in the world. If you don't make the right picks, which more times than not, the Jets don't make the right pick, I'm not going to sweat if the Jets end up picking 8th or 6th or 11th. Make the pick. There's a good player there. There's a great player there somewheres in the draft. It's up to the Jets to find that player. Maybe new management will turn things around. At some point, it's got to. I hope so, because I've only got so many years left on this earth, and I'd like to at least see the Jets make the playoffs at some point. So just end a freaking season, and let's get ready for what is always the best time of the year for Jet fans, the off season, when we can all be optimistic and say we're hyped up about next year. We can't wait. That'll hold us till September, until reality hits again. But maybe it'll be different this time. Maybe they'll get it right. They've got to get the general manager right. They've got to get the coach right. And it just came to me a little bit. Woody Johnson, he's not a good owner, but man, can you dump on a guy anymore with these hit job stories? I mean, Woody Johnson, one thing about Woody Johnson, he's not cheap. He spends money. He's often, sometimes almost to a fault, he brings in the fans' choice of what they want out there. But this goes beyond Woody Johnson, okay? This goes beyond Woody Johnson. This goes beyond. This is ineptitude from top to bottom. Woody's not selling the team anytime soon, so get used to him being here. He did the right thing by hiring Spielman and Tannenbaum. to help with the selection of the next general manager. Great idea. So hopefully those guys will get it right. They're not going to make the final decision, but maybe this is an eye-opening experience for Woody all around. But I'm not ready to blame all this on him. I'm not ready to blame half of this on him. There's enough to go around with everybody. So end this freaking season and let's move on. Only other thing I want to mention with the Mets, they signed Sean Manaea to a 3-year, $75 million deal. I just heard that this morning. Great deal. He was my prediction. We did a podcast, and I would have liked to see Walker Buehler come back. He did sign a 1-year deal. I forget with who. But I like this was the one I was most likely I was predicting that would happen. I predicted Alonso and Manaea would be the next moves, and Manaea's there, and Alonso you would think wouldn't be far behind, given the fact that I'm in the middle of a podcast. But you would think that that would be the next move, given um, the fact that there really isn't much of a market for Alonso at this point. So good 3-year, $75 million deal. Had a great year last year. He should team up well with Peterson and Senga for a top 3. Uh, so that's good news, and you hope that Alonso's the next one to sign. I can't see why the Mets could not get Alonso at this point, given he doesn't have a market at no more than a 5-year, somewhere between 135 and 150 total million, maybe 27.5 million a year. And that might leave them some money to pursue another free agent, maybe Bregman, formerly of the Astros. So that's pretty much it as far as the Jets mess goes. They find new ways to just make you shake your head and say, who the hell is coaching this team? Is there a coach on this team? Maybe my wife is coaching this team. She probably is coaching the team because she does everything and knows everything. Anyways, I'm Mike. This is New York Sports Rehab. If we get an Alonso signing or any other free agent signing, I'll be back probably with Matt next time. I know we'll do an end of the season New York Jet final assessment, which I can't imagine being much different than what we've been talking about now, except don't be surprised if the Jets maybe win their last game of the year when it's meaningless and they win that game and it knocks them back further in the draft, but who cares at this point? So we'll do an end of season Jet low life report. We may do something maybe either right before or after New Year's, kind of just looking back as a whole in the year on New York sports in general, throwing in also the Knicks and Rangers, who both did really well last year. Knicks look like they're going to be fine this year. The Rangers, on the other hand, are falling apart, but maybe we can talk about that. So we'll do an end of the season, end of the year podcast. We'll do a end of the year Jet podcast. And if the Mets do anything in terms of signings or trades over the next week or so, I'm sure we'll be back with that. Kyle will probably join us as well for anything Met related. Anyways, I'm Mike. This is New York Sports Rehab. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk again soon.